Awareness, the final frontier. This is Awareness Explorers.
Well, welcome back, Awareness Explorers, to Awareness Explorers. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson, and with my friend, co-host, and fellow comedian,
Ryan Tom O'Connor.
Just gave me in a good mood with some early talk before this. We have been exploring the topic of positive psychology, and if you don't know what that is, we will positively tell you what that is, and its relationship to awakening. And we have a lot to say about that. It's a topic close to my heart because kind of half my books are about awakening and half of my books are about positive psychology. So I feel well qualified to talk about this subject. But as usual, when I bring up a topic, I always ask Brian, so, when we thought of this topic and what the relationship is between these two ways of, say, being happier or healthier in life, what popped into your mind?
Well, I think positive psychology is a great thing. And when I believe it was Martin Seligman who coined that term, if I'm not mistaken, psychology was about figuring out what mental illness you have and how to cure it, as opposed to studying on the positive side how people become happy. And so it's been, I think, very productive, and they've uncovered a lot of great research. I particularly like the author Tal Ben-Shahar, who studied positive psychology at Harvard and put it into actual practice with his students. And I think it's great. But its relationship to awakening, I don't think it goes quite far enough, although Shahar's latest book, Happier No Matter What, I think approaches it. But in awakening, it's happiness for no reason, uncaused happiness. And I think the distinction is between feeling happy and being happiness itself.
I like that distinction, feeling happy and being happy, or one's doing, positive psychology, they have practices. And you could say awakening's a doing, but the doing methods tend to be ones of not doing, for whatever strange words that sounds like. I originally got into positive psychology, which I'll describe as the study of happiness and what helps people to be happier. And then later got into spirituality and awakening. So I kind of saw them as a mutually compatible step one and step two. First I was depressed, and then I worked on being happier. And then once you reach a certain level of okayness and feeling good about your life, then you might go into awakening. But that's not the path for everyone. And some people see them as actually going in totally different directions. And in some ways, that's also true. One is positive psychology is about doing things with your personality and your ego to create a more harmonious and happy life. And awakening really is about dismantling the ego or relaxing the ego and being your beingness. So they really are very different things. The question that I thought we'd explore a lot today is, what is the relationship? Can they be the two-wing analogy? Can they be partners, or are they two wings going in opposite directions?
Yes, that is really interesting. And I believe that they are mutually compatible. I don't think that they need to go in opposite directions, but there are pitfalls when you define happiness as a feeling that you have, that you must have all the time. Because with awakening to your true nature, you realize that happiness is the default state, and awareness, because it completely allows everything to be there, is actually okay even when you're sad. So it is a paradox. If you realize that happiness is who you are, what you are, then you can be happy even while you're having so-called negative emotions. You can be happy when you're sad, which that surprised me when I discovered that, but I think it's true. But the other thing that you mentioned about, one leading to the other. People think either that they have to be happy in order to awaken, or they have to awaken in order to be happy. And I don't think either of those seem to be true, because many people awaken out of misery and abject depression. And some people find their true nature, and then it flows into their everyday life, and they actually do have the positive emotion of happiness more often during the day.
Yeah, I once asked my teacher of 26 years, is it easier to awaken out of depression or happiness? When you're feeling good about your life or you're feeling terrible about your life. And, we're always looking for simple answers. It's this or it's that. And are they compatible or are they mutually exclusive? And reality, for what it's worth, tends to be infinitely complex.
And nuanced.
And nuanced, unfortunately. Well, my teacher had a good answer. He said that they both have advantages and disadvantages. If you're happy, in a certain way, you're at a higher vibration. So you're kind of like closer to the ocean of beingness. If you want to jump into the ocean, it helps if you're on the beach. Jumping into the ocean from middle America, not likely to happen, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, both famous teachers, they were like severely depressed. And then boom, they awaken. People like that always piss me off because I was severely depressed and I didn't awaken. But, that is a possibility. There are miracle examples like that. But most people who awaken probably do it in the gradual approach where they're feeling good, life is kind of together, and then they're asking for what's more. And the what's more is letting go into beingness and awareness. So I think some people awaken out of depression, which was partly your path, Brian. Some people awaken out of a gradual opening from having a good life. And you have to find the path that seems to work for you at this point. But I think it's always safer to try to be happier and happier than from that higher vibration, see if you can then jump into the ocean of beingness.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about the higher vibration part. But the problem with that is that we think it's something that we bring about, and we think that if somehow we're not in higher vibration, there's something wrong. And it really is so tricky, because whereas positive psychology, which I really do admire, is about the things that you can do to make yourself happier. And the uncaused happiness of non-dual awareness is the opposite. You are no longer doing anything to change your experience. When you completely drop the idea that your experience, good or bad, should be any different, then you connect to that sea of joy, which is universal awareness. And then it floods into your life, and it can create a feeling of happiness. But the thing is, if you go for the feeling of happiness, it eludes you. You have to really basically stop trying to change anything.
And you bring up a good point, since positive psychology is about changing things, although it might help you vibrationally be closer to the ocean of beingness, the habits of mind that it entails, what gets you into a higher vibration in positive psychology might be the exact same things that keep you from the ocean of beingness, meaning that there's more of a sense of doing, there's more of a sense of not accepting things as they are, but trying to get somewhere else. And I say this a lot with clients that I coach or such, that the things that got you to one level of success tend to be the things that keep you from the next level of success. And that's a drag.
Yeah, that definitely can happen. And one of the paths to awakening is the path of failure. Okay, I'm going to meditate really hard and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to really quiet my mind, and then you fail. And if you fail and you just think that therefore there's something wrong with you and you have to fix what's wrong, then that's not going to help you. If you fail and you realize, oh, it's because I am putting effort into it. What if I give up effort?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a completely different thing. But on the other hand, I really do like positive psychology, and I would much rather interact people who are skilled at it and happier, whether they're enlightened or awakened or not. So I think it would be good to talk about positive psychology and talk about some of its principles and some of its techniques.
Yeah. So, being that I've written some books about it, probably my favorite one is called Find Happiness Now. And it's really the study of what helps people to have happy, meaningful lives that they really enjoy. And one of the principles behind it is something called PERMA, which stands for PERMA. The P stands for you want to have positive emotions, going to concerts, falling in love, having fun times with friends. Now that you want to focus on that to some extent. The E in PERMA stands for engagement, and that means that you want to have activities that bring in a sense of flow, like playing tennis or video games, where you're really completely involved in these things. And these 5 initials in the word PERMA are really like 5 ingredients of the happiness cake. And the R in PERMA stands for relationships. People who have quality and a quantity of relationships tend to be much happier. So it's always good to focus in that direction. That's perhaps the most important factor. The M stands for meaning. People who have a sense of meaning or purpose in life tend to be happier. And the A stands for accomplishment, which is a sense that you're accomplishing important goals. And people who are even missing one of those ingredients tend to be a lot less happy, but nowhere in there is there a for awakening. And that's the rub that, I think PERMA can be the precondition to awakening, or it can be completely non-material. You can awaken and be very happy and not have necessarily relationships or engagement or these other things. So they can be separate or they can be related depending upon the individual.
Yeah, I had 2 thoughts on PERMA. I think PERMA is very interesting. And one is that, let's say you have awakened or to some degree discovered your true nature is universal awareness. There are times, or some people have reported, a kind of an emptiness where they separate from the world. They become unengaged with the world. And if a person has come into that, which I think is a temporary phase, but it happens quite often, I think PERMA is a great way out of it because it can help you appreciate the world and all of its riches and glories, and appreciation along with gratitude, I think are fundamental positive psychology techniques. Because just because we see ourselves as universal consciousness doesn't mean that the world isn't there and the world isn't interesting, fascinating, wonderful, and enjoyable. Why not engage with it and enjoy it? But the second thing about it is that I find a slight contradiction, especially with the last A, which is achievement, because in all of Tal Ben-Shahar's books, he talks about the happiness that you come from achievement, from winning a contest or from gaining acceptance into a university or something like that, and the joy and happiness that you get the day that happens and the day after, and how quickly it fades.
Mm-hmm.
And so that there's so yes, it's good, but there's a little bit of a contradiction, because happiness through achievement isn't lasting happiness, which surprises people. The reason that we feel so happy when we get what we want is because for the time being, we're not wanting anything, but then we start wanting more all over again. And the non-dual awareness view of happiness is that it is not related to circumstances. It's not related to what happens to you and in the world. It is there as the background of all experience, and you simply stop thinking about the past and future and about what you have to fix and change, and it reveals itself.
Mm-hmm. You know, we often have used the two-wing analogy. A plane obviously needs two wings, and I think the awakening wing has, one approach to happiness. The positive psychology has another. And it's interesting to see if you can dance them together. I certainly have to some extent, and I think you have to some extent. Gratitude is a positive psychology practice. It goes well with awakening practices, so they can dance together, and they can sometimes interfere with each other. If you're so into doing positive psychology methods like gratitude or other types of positive psychology methods, like trying to get into flow states or trying to have better relationships or whatever it is, or trying to accomplish more stuff, it can also interfere with the awakening wing. And I took the Finder's course, Jeffrey Martin's thing, which is now called the 45 Days to Awakening. And in that course, he does have both positive psychology and awakening techniques. And his theory is that they actually do work well together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, sometimes you can't have one, and then you have another channel to turn to. If channel one isn't working, then let's go to channel two, and not all is lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is the way that most people think of it now. Although traditionally, I think that people saw it as that you really had to just totally surrender everything and stop doing, and it was more extreme than how we think of it now.
Yeah, it's true. And I do think they're mutually compatible. And I think that the techniques of positive psychology are absolutely valuable, because over the years you have convinced me that the two-wing analogy is valuable. Let's not transcend the world. Let's interact in a positive, happier way. Although practically all the things that have helped me in my life become happier have been dropping doing things. For instance, I used to be very judgmental and critical of other people. And when I just sort of stopped doing that, not only were other people around me happier, but I was happier, because there's less sense that what is shouldn't be. And to me, that's that kind of thing is helpful. But you talked about Jeffrey Martin and his positive psychology and the techniques, and I'd love to hear some of the specific techniques.
Sure. Well, a lot of them have to do with gratitude, and there's different ways to tap into gratitude, just asking what am I grateful for, or thinking specifically of things in your life now that you feel good about. I'm going to do a meditation later that will have a lot to do with gratitude. There could be even thinking about people that you love and who love you. And that can be related to positive psychology. You're trying to get into a better state by focusing on love. One of my favorite positive psychology methods is called 3 Good Things. And that involves answering 2 questions. What's something good that's happened to you in the last day? And we'll try it right now, Brian. What's something good that's happened to you in the last day that you valued, enjoyed, or appreciated?
Within the last 24 hours or just today?
24 hours.
So some dear old friend from Taiwan came to visit with her 2 kids, a 17-year-old boy and I think a 10 or 12-year-old girl. And I took them on an excursion, took them to the Whitney Museum, to the High Line, Little Island. And we had so much fun sharing this with people and seeing it through the eyes of someone for whom it's all new. I was
Yeah.
very positive.
So the three good things is you asked that first question, has anything good happened to you that you've enjoyed or valued? And the second question is even more impactful, which is what character trait or skill or ability in you contributed to having that good thing happen?
Oh. Hmm. At first I was going to say generosity, but it's not really generosity. It's more like being interested in the other person's enjoyment and
Yeah,
not
your ability.
necessarily in just my own. In other words, yeah, I had to get up early and it was very hot and I had to do a lot of running around and sweating and stuff like that. But I was so interested in helping them have a good time that it was, you know, uh, it wasn't about me.
Yeah. So the Buddhists might call that your openness to sympathetic joy, being able to get into other people's shoes and enjoy things through your empathy and their experience. And that ability is partly due to your open-heartedness, your working on yourself for a lot of years, your commitment to helping people and family. All that contributed to that positive experience. And in the three good things method, you do that 3 times. But what it does is it points you to how every good moment in your life is a reflection of something good in you. And that seems to increase people's happiness as they do that. It increases their self-esteem. It increases their ability to see things accurately. Because a lot of people, only see the bad in themselves. And that's an example of a positive psychology method that's been shown to work really well, along with things like gratitude or saying words of appreciation to others, acts of kindness to others. These are all things that do make our life better that we can easily do. And most people don't know them. So they are kind of unhappily dealing with all the tendencies of mind, which tend to make us unhappy in this day and age.
Yeah, beautiful. Can you say that term again? The Buddhist term that had the word sympathetic in it. What was it again?
It's called sympathetic joy. And, a lot of people have that with their kids. I very much have it with my dogs. One of my favorite things is to see my dogs be so happy and, playing with them. And it's just, I can feel their joy and happiness whenever they are happy. And that's a great ability to have because sometimes, I've had a hard month and my own happiness was a little bit on hold this past month, but my dogs, they were just as happy as usual. And so were some of my friends. And I would just enter into their world. And it's a great ability to have that openness to other people's joy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So those are a few of the methods. One method of positive psychology is you write a letter to somebody who's really impacted your life, and you tell them how much it's impacted your life, and you give it to them or you read it to them. Little things like this do make a difference. Having meaning in your life, all these different things, they do make a difference. And it is easier to jump into the ocean of bliss if you're feeling kind of good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And that really is compatible with one of my favorite techniques, which is just simply appreciation.
Yeah.
Your appreciation. But I also think forgiveness is very important. Forgiveness of yourself and others. And a little bit of a stepping outside. So it's not like, oh, I did this stupid thing, but oh, there goes Brian doing that thing again. Gives you a little distance and say, okay, he's human and he made a mistake and let's love him and be love and hope he doesn't do it again.
Yeah. Or the old Jesus statement, forgive them, they know not what they do. This past month, I have been dealing with a problem largely out of my own creation. And, I made some what could be called stupid errors. And, it caused me and some other people some grief. But I didn't have the added thing of shame and blaming myself. Forgiveness comes pretty easily to me, which is nice. And also, I easily forgive others. But that's the type of thing where it will cloud your happiness. And there are positive psychology methods of self-forgiveness or letting go of shame that can really help. And once you have those obstacles a little bit out of the way, I think awakening is easier as well.
Yes, it reminds me of the old distinction between guilt and shame. Guilt is the sense that you've done something bad, and shame is the sense that you are bad.
Right. And people who have that sense, I work with people as a coach and formerly as a therapist, and I work to free them from those burdens that they are bad. And one of the great ways of doing that is through the 3 good things method, where you see that every good moment in your life is a reflection to a specific thing in you that is a good quality. And when you can see that, it makes you lighter. And the lighter you are, the more likely that you're going to be able to relax into beingness.
Yeah. And the 3 good things quality, I want to add a little, what I hope will be a helpful hint. Let's say you're feeling really bad and you have to search hard for those 3 good things because you're just feeling low. They don't have to be 3 huge, wonderful Nobel Peace Prize winning things. They can be small, little good things about yourself or something that you've done or experienced.
I'll give you a really small example of that. While you were talking, I took a swig from my water bottle, and I have gotten good at making smoothies. I'm the Einstein of smoothies now. And so when I took a swig, it tasted really good. In that moment, I was like, oh, I love this. This is great. And that would be an example of a good thing, something I liked, I valued. And what in me allowed me to have that? Well, when I am interested in getting skilled in something, I'm able to ask for help. I got books on making smoothies. I got all the ingredients. I got a good smoothie maker. I treat myself really well. And therefore, I got to have a good moment. That's not a big thing, but I take a lot of swigs from my water bottle, and I have 40 good moments a day because I have studied the art and science of making smoothies, and that makes me an awesome person. The fact that I have that ability. Actually, it doesn't, but it does make me have a lot of really good small moments.
Yeah, good small moments. They're great. And when you talked about that, it reminds me of something. We've talked about this many, many times on this show, but my awareness game of include, which at first I developed as something to do when you're having an emotion you don't want. Because these negative emotions want all the attention. They say, pay attention to me. Don't pay any attention to anything else. And if you stop and say, what else is present? Well, I can feel my body. I can feel the weight against the chair. I can feel the sound. Right now, there's an air conditioner over there, or the sound of birds. And they don't have to be such wonderful, positive things. They just have to be other things. And the more you include of what is in awareness now, the smaller in proportion that negative feeling can become. So just include, and especially include things that you can notice non-verbally, which are sounds, body sensations, smells, sights, colors.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite methods.
I don't know if that's actually a positive psychology method, but I would say that is an example where they overlap.
I would call that a positive Brian O'Connor method. One way that positive psychology has intermixed with awakening is through kind of the ideas of the law of attraction, which is, raise your vibration, keep raising it, and then eventually you enter into the unity vibration, or what David Hawkins would call unity consciousness. And so these ideas are out there, but I think it's really up to every individual to find the mix of these two approaches to a good life, to see if they're compatible in their life now, to see if you might want to focus on one for a while or then focus on the other for a while, or how to create a combination that seems to work for you in a way that is stable and sustainable.
Mm-hmm. And now that you speak of law of attraction, I thought I would speak of some of my experience with it when I first learned of it through a friend was telling me about how she was using it to, help her in her performing career. I thought, okay, let me give this a try. And I started studying some, stuff from the Abraham Hicks material and that kind of thing. And it was all about how you should focus on good feelings. And what happened to me was I got the idea that therefore, if I had a negative emotion or if I felt bad in any way, that this was somehow going to prevent me from getting what I want in my life. And so I started basically squashing them, basically saying, okay, I have a bad feeling, don't have it, change it. And I got depressed all over again, and it really backfired. So what I had to do was completely allow myself to have emotions. And when I needed a good cry, have a good cry. When I felt bad, just admit, okay, this feeling is here. But then I discovered that the real meaning of it is focus on what floats your cork. In other words, if there's music that you really like, listen to that music. If there's something that you really enjoy, art or puzzles or science or anything, turn your attention to stuff that you really enjoy. So instead of the negative approach of do not feel bad, you must feel good. Instead, the positive approach is what do I enjoy? What, when I think about, when I dwell on, or when I become engaged in, floats my cork? And to me, that's, I think, the best way to use law of attraction, not necessarily so that you can manifest your desires. In fact, forget about manifesting your desires. That's not going to happen if that's your intention. But just think about floating your cork, and those and things seem to, in your real life, in some mysterious way, work out better.
Yeah, that's well said, except I would prefer to float my boat rather than my cork, if that's okay.
Oh, float your boat. Absolutely. Float your whole fleet.
Yeah. Okay, good. Matter of fact, I might even manifest floating my yacht, which is a lot bigger than a cork. But I think you're pointing us in the right direction, which is rather than using the law of attraction to deny reality, use it to open to the joy of reality, which is right in front of you.
Yeah, good way of putting it.
Well, that being said, I think, is there any last comments you have before we do a positive psychology to awakening meditation?
Yeah, I think we've compared and contrasted them both in a really good way. So I'd love to hear your meditation.
Well, I would like to positively appreciate our Patreon supporters for supporting us and getting a bunch of free stuff that we send to them. If you're interested in being one of those people, go to patreon.com/awareness explorers, and you can support us for as little as $1 a month or more if you want. And we send you free blogs and meditations and other stuff every once in a while. But thank you for that. So this meditation is a combination of positive psychology and awakening. And as usual, I want you to make yourself comfortable, relax, Take a couple of slow, deep breaths. I'm going to have you think of a few things that you could feel grateful for in your life. And with each thing I mention, see if you can thank the universe or God or whatever feels right to thank for having these various blessings in your life. And let's begin by thinking about where you live. You probably have a roof over your head when many folks in the world don't. And if you have access to, say, air conditioning or heat, allow yourself to feel what a blessing those things are, to have access to physical comfort in your own home. You can thank God, the universe, or yourself for having created a home where you can be physically comfortable and at ease. Now, if you have a special friend in your life or romantic partner or some being that you really appreciate, just think of one now. Allow yourself to feel grateful for this special being in your life. Something about you attracted them, and you get to enjoy wonderful times with this being. Allow your heart to open to that feeling of connection with them and the gratitude for their being in your life. And if you have a pet that you care about or have had one in the past, allow yourself to feel grateful for knowing the love between you and a precious animal, past or present. Those relationships can be so nurturing and so wonderful. Feel the gratitude for having that connection with an animal, past or present. If you have access to a refrigerator, just think of what a blessing that is to be able to have all these different foods, fruits and such, and other things so conveniently near you. Walking a few steps and having it all just like there. Wow. Allow yourself to feel a gratitude for that magic. Or a supermarket that you don't have to hunt your food or even grow it. It's like just there for the picking. What a blessing that is. Or think of the awesome gift of having music so easily available with so much variety and possibility of enjoyment. Many people can just ask their digital assistant to play them whatever song they want out of thin air. From Bach to the Beatles. What a magical power to be able to listen to almost any song humans have ever created so easily. And with each breath, breathe in a feeling of deep gratitude for these many blessings in your life and in modern day life. And notice this open feeling of gratitude and nice vibration. And Notice that this vibration or feeling is in a field of awareness. It's part of a field of larger awareness, and that everything exists. How
Well,
was that for you, Brian?
I really appreciate that. And I thought it was beautiful how you married the two and the progression from the positive psychology techniques to the non-dual awareness techniques. And it seemed all one. It seemed all compatible and part of the same sort of gratitude and appreciation and effortlessness of being. So thank you.
Well, like chocolate and peanut butter, they can go well together if in the right mix.
That's right. Then again, peanut butter can go with absolutely anything.
That's true also.
The most surprising things.
Another one of those blessings in modern day life.
Mm-hmm.
And our listeners are a blessing to us in modern day life. So thank you for listening. Feel free to pass this on to people that could use a little inspiration. It's a challenging time for a lot of people. So having the best ways to be happier and find inner peace are important topics in a time of stress and complexity. So hopefully you're sharing this information with your friends, and this little good news helps to bring a smile to your face. Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to Awareness Explorers. To learn more, you can check out our website at awarenessexplorers.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love it if you would post a review. And please share our link on Facebook and with family and friends, because knowing yourself as awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself or someone you love.